So Oscar Valdez executes a perfect game plan and ends Miguel Berchelt's fearsome reign after brutally knocking him out in the 10th round. Josh Kelly gets stopped in the 6th round, meaning Eddie Hearn continues to take losses in the stable, and Adrien Broner is back. Tons to talk about on the video, so make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on the comment section below. I would love to discuss any of the fights or events with you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Rewind. On the co-main event for the top-ranked card, Gabriel Flores Jr. from Stockton, California was able to stop Jason Velez from Puerto Rico in the 6th round. Although the vastly experienced veteran had his moments in the fight, Gabe's boxing IQ was on full display, and it led to a window of opportunity where the knockout not only presented itself, but was delivered upon in a brutal fashion in the 6th round. After his victory, Flores Jr.'s resume is elevated to 20 wins with 7 knockouts and 0 defeats. Although Velez isn't a top name at the division, he was definitely a good step up for Flores, and he came through accordingly. On the main event of the card, we had 2 Mexican warriors put it all on the line as Oscar Valdez sought to upset the odds when he challenged Miguel Berchelt for his WBC super featherweight crown. From the opening round, it was evident Valdez was going to utilize the superior foot speed and superior hand speed to dart in and out of reach from the taller, longer champion, but whom also happened to be much slower as well. Valdez executed a masterful game plan, working behind a fast jab and setting up his patented left hook, dropping the former champion 2 times during the fight. And although Berchelt showed the heart of a champion and not only got up but won a few rounds during the mid-stretch of the fight, he was ultimately brutally stopped by a left hook punch in the last second of the 10th round that disconnected him from the earthly realm for a brief moment. With this win, Valdez was able to show the world, including the boxing analysts and idols that doubted him, of what he's capable of and how talented he truly is. Berchelt was a massive favorite. He had the support of many Mexican idols in the sport, and even Mexico's president dialed in and asked Berchelt to secure a knockout win. Unfortunately for all of them, Valdez converted the doubt into fuel and motivation and was able to peel Miguel's aura of invisibility back layer by layer, exposing his limitations to the entire world. Berchelt had no defensive abilities to fall back on, so when he was hurt, he would simply fight back instead of seeking refuge and holding to survive. He would also grow impatient and come in recklessly, swinging wildly while leaving himself open for counters, and that's exactly what happened. Berchelt fell victim to his own reckless abandon, and Valdez exploited it. Also, after several fights and a few years, Oscar finally seems to have figured out and adjusted to Eddie Reynoso's style. Valdez was impressive with his footwork, stance switching, and ability to work behind an educated jab. He was able to remain composed during moments when Miguel attempted to drag him out of his rhythm and into a firefight. Lastly, when asked about what was next for him in the near future, Valdez named Shakur Stevenson as a potential future opponent. With both being under the top-ranked banner, I don't see this fight being much of an issue to make. Both men are exceptionally talented, albeit in different departments in the sweet science, but it definitely makes for an exciting fight and another marquee name for Valdez. Now jumping across the pond for the next card, Eddie Hearn and dazn gave us yet again another midday riddled with boxing excitement. Brief overview of the undercard: Florian Marcoux makes his return to the winning column after Rylan Charlton's corners threw in the towel, but it wasn't an easy night out for Marcoux. He was dropped and had several lulls throughout the fight himself before getting the win. On the co-main event of the card, Robbie Davies Jr. loses a majority decision to Mexico's Gabriel Valenzuela, who, although had a few scares himself, was able to administer the most damaging and telling blows throughout the course of the bout. Although the cards were far too close for comfort, the right man won in the end, and Davies Jr. at 31 is left to ponder his next move in the sport. On the main event of the evening, Josh Kelly looked to acquire his biggest win as he faced off against David Avanesyan. After several years in the making, the bell finally rang and Kelly came out of the corner blazing hot, peppering David with combinations before finding an exit route away from danger. Kelly was coasting for the first few rounds, but things began to change as Avanesyan continued to walk Josh down, disregarding Kelly's efforts to keep him at bay. Kelly, a very hyped up welterweight whom many fans from across the pond believed to be a world-class talent, began losing his footing and was ultimately knocked down in the 6th round. Although he managed to get back up, the Russian-European belt holder cranked up the heat and applied more pressure, hurting the Olympian talent and forcing his corner to wave the white flag. thus forcing the ref to step in and save Kelly from further damage. Although Josh Kelly is definitely talented, his athleticism isn't enough to make up for his defensive deficiencies, and will continue to pose as an issue unless he figures out how to tighten it up. Another weekend and yet another derailed starred fighter for Eddie Hearn's stable. Sucks for him right now, but I'm sure things will eventually turn around. I bet his matchmakers are catching some heat though. Lastly, the Showtime card was relatively tame. Robert Easter Jr. outpointed a game Ryan Martin. Otto Wallin pretty much coasted to a decision win against an outmatched Dominic Brazil in a battle of former Fury and Wilder opponents, respectively. And on the main event, a soulless effort from Broner in which he barely managed to scrape past an unheralded fighter from Puerto Rico in Giovanni Santiago. This was Broner's first fight in 2 years, and although he was supposed to have looked focused in training camp and whatnot, truth told otherwise when the fight weight was changed because of Broner's inability to make the cutoff. To make matters worse, Broner seems to continue with his limited punch output. This allowed Santiago to rack up points and win on a lot of people's scorecards. However, it wasn't enough to win on the actual scorecards that mattered, and the judges gave the decision to Broner. Santiago wasn't surprised or uproared about the loss. He simply took it and looks to continue on. However, that doesn't necessarily mean Broner clearly won the fight, because it's obvious he didn't. I honestly believe Broner won't be returning to the elite level. Hell, even the commentators didn't believe Broner had done enough themselves. He may scrape past these kind of lesser talents, but he won't have enough to get past or even make it competitive against the top names anymore. It's a sad state when his post-fight interviews have more entertainment value than the actual fights themselves. Broner had a spark when he started, achieved several impressive milestones throughout his career, but unfortunately for him and his fans, those days seem to be in the rearview mirror at this point. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are on the fights. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and also leave a comment in the comment section below. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and like always, this is Shay at King Me Boxing, signing out.